Hey, I'm Joey from thephysicaleducator.com, and for this week's Tube Tuesday video, I'd like to talk to you all about a sport education unit that I planned a few years back. That was a lot of fun to teach and the kids really enjoyed it. Now this is my take on sport education, it may not be the full version, but I'd still like to go over and just give you an idea about how I did it. Now just to give you a bit of a background as to why I went the sport education route, when I was at McGill in my last year, I had a final field placement to do, and I was lucky enough to get placed at l'École secondaire de Chambly, which is my old high school here in the city of Chambly in Quebec. Now Chambly is not what you'd call a full-out high school. Instead, it's a junior high school, which means it only offers grades 7, 8, and 9. Now when I was there, I never taught grade 7, but I did teach 2 grade 8 classes and 9 grade 9 classes. And of my 9 grade 9 classes, there was one class that was special. Now, it was special because it was part of this program called the Sports Plus program. Now, as opposed to regular grade 9 classes who only had 2 periods of phys ed on a 9-day cycle, students in the Sports Plus program had 6 periods of phys ed on a 9-day cycle, which means I got to see them a lot more. So I figured with all of this extra phys ed, why not do a sport education season? So that's what I did. Here's how. In the first class of the unit, I had my class come in, and then I explained to them that for that unit, we would be doing basketball. I then explained to them what the sport education model was. So I talked to them about roles, I talked to them about seasons, the culminating event, things like that. I then divided my class up into fair teams that I had pre-organized to make sure that there was an equal amount of skill on each team. I sent the teams out, and each team had to fill out a worksheet. On this sheet, they had to come up with a team name, a team color, and then they had to assign the different roles to each member of the team. I'll talk about those roles a bit later. Then I went around to make sure that there was no questions, making sure everything was okay, and that was pretty much the first class. And I'd like to talk to you about the different roles, and the first one I want to talk about is the manager. So at the beginning of each class, each team had to send me their manager who would ask me what their tasks were for that day. I'd give them a list of tasks and things to do, and then the manager would set out and do them. For example, a task could be making sure that their team had all the equipment they needed for their practice that day and making sure they were changed. Another big role was to make sure that their team was always on time for their games that they would be playing that class. Now the second role I'd like to talk about is the role of the coach. Now at the beginning of each class, each team's coach had to come see me and I would give them a practice sheet for that class. On that sheet would be a list of drills and activities that the coach would then have to go out and teach to his team. The team would practice, and once the coach felt that they had mastered whatever it was they're supposed to be working on, they'd move on to the next drill. The next role is the role of the referee. Now each team had a referee. So when there would be a game going on, the team that would be off, so the team that wasn't assigned to a game, would have a ref. That's him up in the corner. Now the referee would have to watch the game, they were aware of all the rules, all the signals, and whenever they'd see a foul or violation, they would have to call it, just to make sure that the game went on and it was all fair play. Now each team also had a second official, and that was a scorekeeper. Just like the referees, when a scorekeeper's team wasn't playing, they would have to sit on the sideline and watch over a game. Before the game would start, they'd have to fill out a scorecard writing down the names of the teams playing and all of the players involved. They would also write down the officials and the dates. Then throughout the game, whenever points would be scored or whenever any kind of statistic needed to be written down, the scorekeeper would use their score sheet to keep a running score on the sheet just like this. Also, they would have to mark down any statistics that they saw throughout the game, so points, rebounds, assists. So now that we know the roles, I'd like to talk to you a bit about the season. Now the season was divided into 3 main parts. The first part was the preseason. Now during the preseason, what would happen is I'd obviously give the students an introduction to sport education. I teach them the technical aspects of basketball. I teach them the technical aspects of each role. So let's say for the referees, the signals, things like that. And then there would also be exhibition matches. So that's the preseason. The second part of the season was the season itself. So during season play, there'd be team practices, so that would be run by the coaches. Teams would have to come up with strategies, and there'd be match play. It was all round robin type season, so each team got to play every other team in the league. The final part of the season was the culminating event. Now the culminating event was basically a celebration for the whole season. There was also a final tournament, and there was awards handed out to different people. So not only the team that won the tournament, but also like best referee, best coach, things like that. So those were the 3 parts of our season: preseason, season, and culminating event. And that was pretty much my sport education unit. Now I haven't told you everything right here. I've linked some documents in the underbar below this video that you can go click and go through. But there's a lot more to the season, so please feel free to ask questions, anything you want to know. But for now, I'm spent. So that was this week's Tube Tuesday video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.